Congressman Aderholt is joining us, and I appreciate any time he can spare some time with us to speak. Congressman Robert Aderholt, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, great to be with you. Thanks.
We're talking, or at least I want to talk to you about the speech last night, the address to Congress. I thought it was rather entertaining in delivery, short in substance. I think that was pretty much obvious. Let me just speak to the one thing that I found to be particularly amusing, and then I want to get your thoughts, and then you can continue. He spoke, and he said, we've got to look past this era where we take short-term growth at the expense of long-term viability. And then he started pimping the stimulus, which by definition is short-term growth at the cost of long-term viability. Is it not, Congressman Aderholt?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think what you say is exactly correct in the sense that the stimulus was meant to be a very short-term fix, and of course the problem is the ramifications of the stimulus package will be in the lapse of our. So I think it's exactly that. What you mentioned is exactly right. This package was meant to help in the short term, and that's why the Republican alternative was to look at something that could be the tax cuts that would be half the cost and twice as many jobs that could be produced. So we're very, but we have the package now. We've got to deal with it. And, of course, last night I thought the president's speech, it was, as you say, was very positive and upbeat. But the issue will be with the details. And when the president's budget come out and we'll see what the details are, that's where we can really make a judgment call.
Everyone had been hammering him on being too negative and talking down the economy. Everyone had been hammering him saying, it's about time. You got what you want. You better start talking about it as if it's going to work. But as he talked about it, he started talking about reducing federal spending and all these other things and reducing the debt. But he's just overseen the biggest spending package ever. How in the world do you look at your Democratic colleagues with a straight face when they tell you stuff like this?
Well, that's exactly right, and that's it's very ironic that he would be talking about that. And of course, today, as you may know, we will be having the FY09 appropriation bills on the floor today, which will be about another around the $700-800 billion spending bill, which will, of course, is another government spending program. And, of course, we have to have the appropriation bill, and I'm not saying that is something that we shouldn't pass because a lot of this is to keep government agencies open. But the fact of the matter is we're still spending money, but the thing that we need to look at is back, the bill that we just passed and how the ramifications it's going to have. I think that's the bigger concern that any appropriation bill that will be coming down the pike.
Well, here's my question to you, and I don't know the answer to this question, but we're talking about like 9,000 earmarks, $400 billion something dollars in earmarks supposedly already in this bill. We know how Congress works. There will be probably more of them. The Republicans, I guess, have made their stand here as being fiscal conservatives again. I don't know where they've been for the last 8 years, but you guys are back. You're fiscal conservatives again. Do you have any earmarks in this bill?
Well, I do. I have some projects that I asked for, but of course, bear in mind that the appropriation bill's earmarks does not add anything to the overall cost of the bill. What we want to make sure is that the earmarks that we get, for example, there's several things for Alabama that the Alabama delegation wanted to make sure that was, Alabama was taken care of in that bill. And so I think what we have to do is make sure that when we look at earmarks, we look at them in the right sense. So is it something that helps economic development? Is it something that helps the safety and the welfare of the area? Or is it frivolous spending? And when it's frivolous spending, that's where we draw the line and say there's not an appropriate place for that. But if it is something that truly tries to help the area and trying to encourage economic development and try to build a tax base for an area, then, certainly I'd rather Alabama to get it than New York or California to get all the money, and Alabama's stuck with a tax bill, yet we don't get any benefit from it.
It gets back to the whole, my guy's bringing home the bacon, everyone else is getting pork sort of argument. Can you give us a little something, Congressman Aderholt, of what Alabama has in there or what your district in North Alabama has in it?
Yeah, one of the things that, of course, as you know, Coleman's in the 4th Congressional District
right.
I represent, and it's right there off of 65, and the people that do economic development in the Coleman area have done a tremendous job in bringing a lot of industry. And the industrial park out there is just booming. They've just had really a lot of growth, and they've had a lot of the companies that have located there are hauling their goods in and out of the system and or in and out to the interstate there on 65, and the current road that they're using is clogging up the area where they cannot get their goods in and out of the industrial area. And so we've gotten some money to try to widen the road there so that that they can, and I think that's a perfectly legitimate good
price tag
of the federal money.
Can you tell me the price tag?
I can't tell you the price tag offhand. I don't have the numbers before me, but it'll be probably $2 or $3 million. But in the light of some of these other spending bills of hundreds of millions, that's I think that's a good deal if we can get more economic development from our state and we can bring in jobs.
People aren't opposed to spending to be opposed to spending. They're opposed to bad spending. And
exactly.
I think that's an agreement. Real quick before we change to a different subject here, I want to get one more economic question for you. Charles Schumer has said, "Hey, this isn't an a la carte deal, governors. If you don't want any money from the stimulus, you don't want the money for the unemployment insurance, which is going to add a tag to your price, you're not getting nothing." Is that legit?
Oh, I don't think that's legitimate. I think, Governor Jindal, of course, and of course I know our own governor here in the state of Alabama has been, struggling with that issue as well. I think what they've got to look at and say if there's a part of the stimulus package that's going to be detrimental to our state, then it's their duty not to take it. So I think that's, the governors have to look at the money. That's where the president decided to send the money, and they need to look at it and see how to best help their
But you have seen Schumer saying this, right?
Yeah, well, I understand that is, yes, I understand that's his position. But again, I think that is I think the governors of each state have the duty to look and see how it impacts their individual state.
I guess we're going to see how this thing plays out in the grand scheme of things. You brought up Jindal just real quick. Again, I want to change the subject here, but you brought up Jindal. I wasn't impressed. Am I wrong?
Well, I think he has had better interviews. I served about 6 years with Bobby in the House of Representatives before he was governor. Bobby is a very talented individual, and I think just a great asset for the state of Louisiana. And of course, I've done many interviews, and as you can imagine, and talked to media, and at times you have better days than others, and maybe last night was not his best, but he is. That's not to say he's very talented. We all have our good days and bad days when we do our best, and I'm sure he was under a lot of pressure last night. He was following the President of the United States at a joint session of Congress, so it was a very tough act to follow.
Right.
So, but I wouldn't write Bobby Jindal off. I think he'll be back, and like I said, if you look at what the message he had to say, I think most people would agree with it, especially in Alabama.
Message I agree with 100%. Delivery, like you said, tough act to follow. Let's switch gears here. I know I got to let you go here in a few minutes. He spoke about Iraq. He talked about winding it down. Is it presumptuous, or is he on the right track in Iraq?
Well, I think at some point the goal of every American is to try to withdraw our troops. The bottom line is that we just got to make sure that when we withdraw our troops there and we withdraw from Iraq, that the Iraqi government is going to be able to hold the stability of the country down, and to make sure that it doesn't get in the hands of the terrorists and Al Qaeda, and that's the bottom line. And so what the president's got to do, he's not got just to make a judgment call about pulling the troops out, but if pulling the troops out at the appropriate time. And I think that was what President Bush and most Republicans were saying, is that the goal is not to keep our troops in there forever. The goal is to make sure that the country is stable, it's able to govern itself, and that terrorists will not come over and build their headquarters in that region and be a threat not only to that part of the world but also to the United States of America. Do
you support a surge of troops in Afghanistan?
Well, I was in Afghanistan back in the first part of December, and I had a chance to visit with General McKernan. And, of course, he talked about the need for more troops at that time. So I knew that the request was coming down the pike to the administration for more troops. And there's many parts of Afghanistan that has had great success in trying to get rid of the terrorist activity, but there are some portions, especially in the southern region around the Pakistan border, that is that there's still some trouble spots. And what General McKernan said at that time when I was over there in December, and I think which made perfectly good sense to me, is he doesn't want just to bring the American troops in, just a surge in just for one location, but to let them work with their Afghani counterparts so that they can work together. They can show them how they need to address this issue with the terrorism and with the Al-Qaeda, and how to try to root out that, where it's so much of a problem in that part of the world. So
is that a yes?
That is a yes. That is a yes, and my most definite yes. And like I said, but it's not just a surge as far as having our troops just all over the streets in this part of Afghanistan, but it's to work along the Afghani troops and make sure that they know how to deal with the situation.
All right, Congressman Aderholt, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. I hope to do it soon. My question about Senator Schumer, I think, is one that's going to need to be addressed, and I haven't really seen a Republican response to that. I like the fact that you're saying, no, that's not the case. I'm hoping that's reality. I hope to talk to you soon, Congressman Aderholt.
Okay, good. Thanks, Dale. Good to be with you. Bye-bye.
There you go. Congressman Aderholt taking the time to check in with us.